Looking for all the latest tips, tricks, updates of what's going on in the recruiting industry, check out the Digital Recruiter Sunday night newsletter. I am not here to blow up your inbox. I don't have enough time to create an email every single day. I once a week send you impactful, a big thing that I've learned this week or realized from working with hundreds of recruiters, owning an agency myself. I'm in the trenches every day like you are, and I'm sharing everything that I'm seeing every Sunday, from content, from automation, from how to get better clients, how to find candidates quicker, how to grow your team, how to hire people, everything in between. The link is in the comments. Sign up today, or you can go to my LinkedIn profile, Clark Wilcox. It's the first link on my featured section. You can sign up there. It's all free. So you get all the tips, everything that you need, free in your inbox every Sunday night. Sign up today. All right, today I am joined by a very special guest, Casey Jacox. He is a sales and leadership coach. He is the author of Win the Relationship, Not the Deal. He is a keynote speaker. He is the host of the Quarterback Dadcast. He was at Kforce for nearly 20 years, where his last title was President of Client Strategy and Partnerships. He's a husband. He's a dad. He's an overall awesome dude. I was just on his podcast. I'm happy to have him here today. Casey, how are you, man?
I'm great, man. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fun switching roles. I know I got to interview you, and I'm excited for your episode to come out soon, but it'll be fun to be on the other side.
Yeah, man, you did a heck of a job interviewing me, so I hope I can kind of live up to that. You got me to talk about some things that I haven't shared, which is pretty cool, and hopefully maybe I can do the same today. And I know I was super excited to have you on because I know we've talked, and it's we were just talking offline of like how you're coaching now. It's kind of almost a calling, and just the way that you're working with salespeople and producers and just everything that you have going on, which I want to dive into. But I want to kind of start at the beginning. Like, how did you get into recruiting?
Before I answer that question, should we give love to Kelly Shutrop? Didn't she make today happen? We got Kelly. Shout out to you, girl.
Kelly, she's connected me to some awesome people. You being right up there. She's a great connector of people. I've noticed, which is a superpower. So shout out, Kelly.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly, for making that happen. So how did I get in recruiting? Well, just like most. So when I was a kid, 13 years old, I had, the CEO of Ronstadt and Kforce and RHI and Modus and Inside Global. I just wanted to be them one day. Right? Joking, everybody. No, I mean, just like most, we fall into it. But I had an absolute blast. I joined a company called Hall Kenyon. Kforce purchased them in June of 2004. Fantastic company. And some of the best training for anybody who rolled Hall Kenyon folks out there. I mean, it was, Angela Ronica, Lisa Crawford, Jeffrey Neal, fantastic people that I list names for years. And my good buddy Kelly Hansen got me in there because I was once selling labels. I called them stickers, which showed my maturity level at age 23. My boss said, no, they're labels. It was a barcoding labeling company. And it was like that type of job where you pound the phone, and you're selling stuff, but no one can explain the commission structure.
Ah, yes.
So I was like, this doesn't make sense. I'm selling all this stuff, but I'm not making any money. I don't understand what's going on. So I remember going to my boss one day and I said, hey, he said, what are your goals for next year? I said, well, I want to double my salary and be in front of the customer. And he said, Casey, those are way too aggressive goals for someone your age. And so for me, I knew that was the sign this is not the place for me, which is okay. At that time of that interaction, my buddy Kelly Hansen started telling me, he's like, Jacox, you got to get in this staffing thing. I was like, what? This staffing? I don't understand. It's contract staffing. And I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And he literally described it. I still did. It was like not clicking. I understood like the recruiting piece. And why would they hire a contractor? It didn't really, and then so I'm like, well, I'll go interview. Well, so I interview, and I interviewed 9 times because I was really, really green, but competitive. And I had, sports background. So I had like, the visualization, the grit, the resilience, all these things, but I didn't have experience. I was raw. And so 9 times, I ended up getting an offer to be a contract hourly salesperson. And I left a full-time job for that. So how silly was that? Very risky. But Lisa Crawford gave me a shot, and she could have let me go for, eating the wrong sandwich on a Tuesday because I was a contractor. I was like, I'm making $16 an hour. This is jackpot. And sure as you know what, they said it's probably going to take like 6 months before they convert me. Well, after 3 months, converted me, and that's where kind of things started taking off. I was around some great teammates, but yeah, I spent almost 20 years between Kforce and Hall Kenyon.
What made you take the leap from full time to contract? Like, what did you see? Was it just kind of being young and dumb? Was it just like you see it, you get it, like the opportunity? Like, what was it?
I don't. I was just happy to. I felt wanted.
Yeah,
In my mind, I took a full time job. I was just starting as an hourly employee. I didn't realize I was like on contract, which means I could have got, pardon my French, could have got shit canned at any time. And I was like, but didn't think about it. So I wasn't really more about like I wanted to go full time. It was more like, oh sweet, they're just investing in me and I'm on board. And always was like a naive optimist, which I think I used to my advantage
yeah,
subconsciously throughout my corporate journey. Um, so yeah, but it was a great run.
I love that. It's amazing what happens when people invest in you. Very similar to me at Aerotech. It was kind of bounced around telecom sales. Commission was weird. Had to give back my commission if Verizon screwed up an install or whatever, and the customer wasn't happy that I had no control over. They had done my whole job, and then Aerotech was just like same thing. A few interviews, not nine, but a few, because I was definitely green, ill-fitting suit, all that good stuff. But it was amazing from day one, just meeting the manager and just like them caring.
Hmm.
It's incredible what that does, and I feel bad for people that have started the last few years, like started recruiting remote. Like I wouldn't have been ready for that.
Yeah.
I didn't even think to like bring this up or think that that could be a topic of conversation. But like while I'm here, like, what do you have like thoughts on that? Like, I mean, just as a coach and you're seeing leaders and all that, hiring team members, like, what are your thoughts on kind of like the in person, kind of virtual with kind of training and coaching of recruiters these days?
Yeah, I definitely have a couple different thoughts. Like I know it works
Yeah,
if expectations are clear and there's agreement.
yeah,
Leaders have to set really, really clear expectations, and the employees have to have agreement of those expectations. If expectations are not clearly set, then there's going to be struggle, frustration, challenge somewhere that's going to pop up. Um, I worked remote I would say the last probably 7 years, once or twice a week at Kforce. Um, Loved it. Actually, I could get a lot done because my job was changing. But there's times where certain recruiters, some of our top recruiters, they needed to be in the office.
yeah,
Um, I think like what it is now, it's you the people that do it well, just like the people that do it well internally, you have a plan.
yeah.
You have clarity of okay, what are my skill sets I'm recruiting for? Just like in sales, who are my target accounts and why? Who are my customers and why? Have I built out org charts? Have I started identifying all my decision makers? How many of those have I spoke with? How many of those have I met with? So I think like virtually is a lot of it is sometimes it can be like just a mindset and the words we want to say ourselves like, oh, I can't work remote. Well, says who?
Yeah.
Says you, the person that's just telling these negative thoughts in your mind. Because we as humans, I found out through this entrepreneurial journey, Clark, that I think some science says we have close to like 90,000 thoughts a day. And of those 90,000 thoughts, 75 to 85% are negative. So when we like to be the victim of our own story, the start will always stop us.
Yeah.
But we want to be the hero of our own story. We're going to say, I want to get uncomfortable. I want to get in the game. I want to learn to grow. And that might mean I'm going to mess up. So if it's recruiting virtually and that's not something I know how to do, well, maybe you get curious. Maybe you find someone who is good at it and you ask them a couple questions. Tell me 2 things, Mr. and Mrs. Recruiter, that made you so successful in virtual environment. Describe what would be 1 or 2 things you might tell to yourself when you went back in there that you would do differently now. And if we don't do that, to me, that means our ego's in the way and we lack humility and vulnerability, which I think are some of the life superpowers that most people leave dormant.
I want to get into that because you've been coaching for 4.5 years, right? Now, I've been at it about 3 years full time with Digital Recruiter and coaching and training. That victim mentality is interesting. That humility piece, all that. What are some of the ways that is there? I guess I mean I know there is a way, but like how do people get out of that? Like if you kind of have the victim mentality or this isn't working or that isn't working, you mentioned 75-80% of the thoughts could be negative. Like
Mhm.
what are some of the ways people can get out of that and can kind of claw out of that? Because it's very real and it's something that I see no amount of stress, whatever can work if you don't get out of that mindset. Like, what do you see work?
This is where you embrace vulnerability. You embrace it's okay. You embrace. So I got taught this phrase late in my career, which I loved. It was actually from an external partner, and he
Yeah.
said, "Casey, it's okay not to know every answer. It's just not okay not to do anything about it."
Mm, yeah.
And so once we embrace the fact that there's always another level, there's a better recruiter at your competitor. There's a better recruiter at their other competitor. Just like in us, there's some of the best coaches in the world. They're probably charging hundreds of thousands of dollars a month that we've never even seen or heard. Okay, well let's. And so, like for me, like when you're stuck, you have a choice. We either stay stuck,
Yeah.
or we check our ego and we ask for help. And I think for me, I don't mean to make this like a Uncle Rico Napoleon Dynamite story, but um, uh, the playing position of quarterback taught me to ask for help. Learning how to get coached, realizing that, hey, I might have a great game and we might win, but there's still things I can get better at. Like that being prepared for that helped me in sales and sales leadership. And it's freeing. And when the leader goes first, I would encourage our leaders listening to this. When the leader goes first and maybe slows down to say, man, team, have I ever shared a time where I used to struggle? Or have I ever shared a time where that first 6 months, I was horrible. And mostly, or like even when the leader has like an aha about, man, my boss is totally changing and I love he or she, they're so good. Well, have we gone out of the way to share that feedback with somebody? Or are we just, I don't want to be a kiss ass. I don't want to tell them, but maybe your boss needs it. Maybe your team needs that to help get them unstuck. And so I think when we can be humble and vulnerable and share stories, which is what I tried to do in the book I wrote. I didn't want it to be a book about, let me tell you how great it was. It was more a book of, let me tell you where I sucked and where I struggled, so that someone can learn quicker than I had to learn.
Yeah. So when the relationship, not the deal, when did you realize like I want to write a book?
2013, 14-ish.
And when did the book get published?
2020.
Yeah. So it's 6-7 year process. Did you know the topic when you knew you want to write a book, or was like I want to write something? I just got to kind of figure out what to write about.
Yeah, like 2010-ish. I knew I wanted to write a book, but I didn't know why. I just kind of wanted to have a rights to prove that us football guys could put sentences together. And
beyond XY22,
right, trips
split
open right.
Y2 banana. Yeah,
I got that. Trips open right 334 strategy post X stop.
yeah.
Legit play from college. Boom, Central Washington. No, but I had the Clark W. Griswold moment when he saw the tree. And when the title came to me I was in Dallas working with a team of I would say less experienced folks in the industry, and I was traveling down there quite a bit for like one of our larger customers. And during that transition, I remember telling the team, I'm like, guys, my expectation is that you're going to win every deal, but you're not. More importantly, my expectation is that I want you to win people. So how do you win people when you lose a deal? And I got a blank stare. So I said, let me give you an example. Imagine if we lose to ABC Company, and ABC Company gets 2 project managers staffed, and we didn't get it done. And so imagine I called the manager a week after they were supposed to start, the competitor, and I said, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Klein, it's Casey with ABC Company. I wanted to call to make sure that, thank you for the opportunity to compete. I was bummed that we didn't get a chance. We didn't get it done. Pardon me. We just, unfortunately, our candidates weren't as strong. But I want to make sure that the 2 resources you hired from competitor C or D are meeting your expectations. This one I know I'm thinking about you. Now, what I didn't realize, Clark, is that was very, very uncommon at the time. I just thought I was just being nice, and because I was, and that most people did that. And so when I taught them this, I go, you have to win people. So it's more importantly, you got to win the relationship, not the deal. And when I said that, I was like, that's it. That's the name of the book. And so when I would do this, though, Clark, number of times it happened. 3 things would happen. Client would say, Casey, man, we're good. Thanks for following up. Second thing they'd say is, this is actually kind of crazy. You're following up before the company I hired the people from followed up. Or they'd say, you know what, Casey, your timing's interesting because the two people I was supposed to bring on, they're no longer available. Are your people available? So I pick up low-hanging fruit just by following up that most people don't do.
Where did that come from? Because you
I don't.
mentioned you didn't know that was a big deal. Like, what inspired you to start doing that? Like, what made you
I
kind
just was
of be that way? Yeah,
obsessed with follow-up. And I
interesting.
learned that was such a differentiator for me in documenting, which is why I loved my CRM. Most salespeople didn't. They use it
Yeah.
as an excuse. They want to tell themselves a story that, my boss just wants me to do those things. They might, and you should want to document so that they have visibility on where your business is going as a salesperson. But I learned that the more I document, the smarter I look. The more I follow up and make people feel differently, the more they want to work with me.
No. I mean, you're tapping into something there that is earth shattering. And I mean, you've climbed, some of the highest levels at Kforce, one of the biggest staffing companies in the country. And in work with me, and I'm sure you get this, like, well, was it like, what was the secret sauce, right? What's the magic, and like, work harder, better territory, and all that stuff. But what I have found over and over again is what you just described. Is when I followed the CRM, as a recruiter, as a salesperson, the meeting. I wish more direct hire recruiters got a glimpse of the staffing mindset, because you have to earn your hours every time, every hour someone's on assignment. You can't take it for granted, because that's
Mm-mm.
how you lose. Then your spread goes down. You're just like, oh man. And half the listeners probably don't even know what spread is, right? And gross profit and everything else. And just like those burns, like that's what inspired me to get better. And it was always one day, right? First day check in, first week check in, first month. I think the week after you lose out is gold. I probably would do a month or two, but a week makes so much more sense in staffing, because
Yeah.
you just never know. And it is those things that, man, they make all the difference. Do you feel like recruiters like struggle to get that, producers like struggle to get it, or is it kind of more of like a light bulb, like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense, and then they do it? Or do they still kind of struggle incorporating some of those behaviors?
I think one of the biggest things people in staffing struggle with that is the word behind me, belief.
Yeah.
They don't believe what they do matters, which is a question I got at age 41, which
Mm.
was, I wish I would have got it at 23 when I first got in the industry. It was because when you believe what you do matters, you believe that what you do helps people, whether it's a client, a contractor, a candidate, a consultant. If you believe that you're doing it for the right reasons, then if you do, then you should have the confidence to do anything to go help them. If you believe that what you do helps people, then pick up the phone and call clients. Why wouldn't you? Or we say, I'll call them tomorrow. Oh, I just don't think I can. Or I'm too young. They're not going to want to work with me. Says who?
How do you get to that point? How do you? Because that's not recruiters all the time. They don't believe in what they do, and like I feel bad. It gets me fired up, especially the
Mm-hmm.
ones that really should believe in what they do, because they've done it well
Right.
already, over and over again. Like, how do you tell? Like, how do you guide a recruiter to like own that? Right? You can figure that out. Yeah.
Well, I think it starts with the leaders. It starts with leadership. Leadership has to create the environment. So for me, my three things I really work on with companies is humility, vulnerability, and curiosity. I think these are life superpowers that many people leave dormant. So if those three traits aren't celebrated and taught and inspected and celebrated, then I think our lack of belief will go down, fear will go up, and employee experience will go down. And now I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that's my experience after nearly 50 years of life on Earth. Now I might learn something at 75, but so far those three words I've learned are what helped me at Kforce and what helped me now as a consultant to the industry. Um, but I think the other word I'd say, Clark, that most people don't like to do is practice.
Mm.
So I practice. I wrote about in the book where I didn't practice and I got exposed. I now practice with my clients. We practice or role play, which I know makes people get uncomfortable, because if we aren't practicing with each other, we're practicing on our clients. And so imagine how they would feel if we told them that. They wouldn't be too happy, right? And so I think the more that we can practice, our confidence then goes up, because now we know. And let's say, for example, A leader would ask his or her team, hey, sales and recruiting, tell me what's one or two things that give you anxiety when the client says this or the candidate says this. And maybe we go around the room and everybody has, let's say there's 10 people in the room. Well, there's 10 things, 10 topics that just now became our role play material. And it's not the manager's idea, it's the team's idea because they just gave manager the answer.
Yeah.
So I think doing those types of things will help confidence go up. But I would think last thing I'll say real quick, sorry for the long-winded answer. When I was early in staffing, sometimes I felt like it was like kind of icky and I'm in staffing. It just felt transactional. But once I changed my mindset, I'm like, no, like what we're doing is freaking cool. Like I'm helping a company, and I started asking more business questions. I learned like, what are our project managers doing, and what are our business analysts doing, and who they were gathering requirements for, and for what type of product. Because the more that we were curious, then we could tell a story. And it made it a lot more, and that's how I got into like professional services and statement of work business, because I was solving more business problems versus just giving them a body.
That's one of the most important transformations, like for me in my career, and I see that. I don't know if you could expand on that a little bit, because I hear often people are stuck in the hiring, and I see it in the messaging. They just want to say, "Hey, do you have any open roles? Do you have any open roles? Like, let me know if I can ever help you hire someone." It's just like these managers, like I can, the gatekeeping. They gave the Heisman. I'm sure their eyes are rolling, right? Because they're getting that all the time, especially now with you got Clay and automation, and it's the lowest hanging fruit of outreach. What what are some ways to kind of get involved in the business, or if like people are kind of nervous about asking some of those questions, like when you started doing that, what were some of the reactions you got from managers and some of those partnerships?
I think they were like thankful that it was a new experience.
Yes.
And, people are, I learned this along my journey too, that the clients get really frustrated at salespeople that they don't listen and they don't understand their business. Right. And so like, if I can be a little bit, I know like, for example, something called the 10K, like your annual report, or you could look at quarterly reviews. What are they posting about? That might have nothing to do with staffing, but you can say, hey, Mr. Klein, I was reading your quarterly newsletter and I learned about Project ABC. Really intrigued. And I wanted to learn more about you and your company. Tell me, how is your team involved in that? That's a totally different outreach than to, hi, it's Casey with Bobby's Recruiters. Do you have any needs for a PM? No, you don't? Okay, sorry, I'll call someone else. It's like it's very transactional. And I'm not saying that my approach A is going to work, but it's a lot different than approach B. Yeah. Now, the other thing that I'm sure you being a beast on LinkedIn that you are, Clark, that I am jealous of people now starting out. I started my consulting business, coaching and speaking on accident on LinkedIn. So if you're intentional about LinkedIn, you can follow all your people that you want to do business with. You hit that button, follow.
Yeah.
And then you hit this other button, the bell, all. So whenever they post, you're going to learn more about their stuff. Now, when someone posts something, you don't have to get their approval to leave a comment. And when people post, it's because we want engagement. Yet people instead, sales and recruiter, we tell ourselves, sorry, well, I can't leave a comment. They don't want me to. I don't know them yet.
They would love to. Yeah.
Says who? So I always ask my clients, like, tell me how it would feel while you're nervous on the sidelines, your best competitor just left 2 comments on that person's post you're too scared to do. Tell me how that'd make you feel. And it's usually like a punch in the, you know what? They're like, and they go do it. So it's like, I don't want to be right. I want you to get what you want, which is to motivate a behavior or teaching you a new habit. But LinkedIn is an awesome resource where we can engage with people and be very targeted, whether using Sales Navigator or even LinkedIn. It doesn't really matter, but like that to me alone is just a great way to engage.
I've been saying it for years. It's like as soon as I saw it, I was like, I came from light industrial, commercial, aerotech. I was never on LinkedIn. I had like 100 connections, probably all like family and friends and like college buddies, right? And professors. Like that was it. I remember when I first started got on, I saw like one of my professors like, hey, like Professor so-and-so, like, well, been like 11 years, like hope life is good. Stuff like that. I was just so naive because I was like, oh, this is cool. And then you just build and build, and it's true. Someone I used to work with a couple years ago, Kevin Logan Jr. He always mentioned like people usually get nothing, no likes, no comments, but they put themselves out there. They're self conscious about it. If you're the only comment, you're the only like how do you like? They're going to be so appreciative that you stuck your neck out, you put that on there, like wow, someone's engaging. And I remember when I first started posting, like I'm still grateful for. It's hard to keep up with some of the stuff now because I post a decent amount, but it's like something I have to actively work on. But I remember in the beginning, I was so grateful, and you do remember those people, like they're imprinted in your brain when you are, when you put yourself out there. And it's always like the feedback I get. I can tell how many clients that have gone their own clients and leads and meetings just from a like and a comment, and they don't say, hey, let me know if I can ever hire, or they don't DM like, hey, I saw you posted this job an hour ago, let me know if I could work on it. Versus they're not going to reach out to you for like 4 to 8 weeks, like they're going to try to figure it out on their own. But like even that you let people kind of come to you, I mean, that's got to be a game changer for you now compared to doing this in 2005, right? Like Casey in 2000, I mean, I know you were number one like year after year, but like whatever is above number one, that would have been you if you had LinkedIn, right? At those Kforce days, like the way that it is now.
It's that's why I always I'm convinced, and I learned this through just experience. But like selling is not about telling; it's about being a curious storyteller. It's about asking great questions, not the first level, but the second and third level, getting to the depth of what and how someone thinks, and then helping tell a story of where we've helped that person. And just because you have 3 days experience or 30 years experience, if you work for a company, you have the same team mascot, you have the same colors, you have the same business card, you have the same email, learn someone else's story and be able to share it, which takes practice.
Go ahead.
I would say the other thing I'd say is like, you want to win your time. Like I was joking with a client this morning. Like one of my pet peeves, and I was in staffing, is when a recruiter, and we used to joke about it even with the team because we had great culture. But when a recruiter would say, "Oh, I have the perfect candidate for you," and I'd say, "Well, did you become a software developer over the weekend? Because how do you know what perfect means? I don't know how to code. You sure don't know how to code. So maybe we shouldn't say perfect. Maybe we'd say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I have a candidate or consultant I think's pretty good, and here's why I like them. And then here's a couple things where they might be a little light. I just want to at least share it." Like that alone was a different experience for clients. Then because most clients I found were so tired of getting pressured and pushed and got hired. This is your perfect fit. No, they're not. You don't know. And once we all kind of came to the same agreement with that, we started having a lot more success.
It's it's so crazy just hearing you say all these things, because like I learned, I know I learned things I've been preaching about. I mean, but to see you, achieve the levels that you did, and that's still the principles that you're talking about. It just it goes. I'm with you. Like, man, I was so proud, and I had that ego, and as soon as I let my guard down, and to your point, I feel like it's like not playing dumb. It is. It's being curious, but you're just embracing that, like you're not a know-it-all. And I think there's that piece of it where you're a matchmaker, and a matchmaker isn't one necessarily that comes up with the answer, but it's just that facilitating, right? It sounds like just like knowing your role a little bit, and that knowing your role can add a ton of value. But then kind of knowing it, right? I'm sure like does that come from like your quarterback days? It's like, yeah, you got to know the whole offense, probably even the defense, right, as well. But you're still going to be a quarterback. You're not trying to be a receiver or defensive end or something like that. Like, do you feel like that's kind of where you got some of this from? Because I just don't hear it often, like, to be perfectly frank.
I think my parents did a really good job raising me. I think my wife does a really good job keep me humble.
Yeah.
I have friends that keep me humble. Football for sure. And one of my football coaches in college named Bo Baldwin. Shout out to Coach B. He'd always say, "Casey, if you ever have to tell me how good you are, you're not that good. When you're great, I'll tell you." And so that just always made me realize that there's always another level. And so like I just started asking to my clients when I was in Kforce years, I'd say, "Tell me, is there any other questions I should have asked today that I didn't ask that would have made our time valuable today?"
I love that. I
ask that now in coaching. "Tell me, is there anything else I could have done today to make our time valuable?" "Great. Tell me why." So I love making people think, because that's how they remember me a lot more than my fancy business card or my pretty website or my awesome candidate. No, that's why Maya Angelou's, I love one of her favorite quotes is not what you said, why you said it, but how do you make people feel? Which in a day of AI and automation and all these things, AI is not going to, yeah, AI helps. There's a lot, I love a lot about AI, but I'm still convinced that the 20 years in this book, AI can't replicate that. Sure, they could copy it and they could write it. Go for it, AI, I don't care. But they don't have the stories I do.
Yeah.
And they don't have the emotion behind the stories that I do. And how I connect with people, they don't have. Now, I might be naive, but I'd rather be naive on things I know are proven that work with human connection, which is still something that humans love.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced that, being nice, never going to go out of style. Setting expectations, never going to go. Being a great listener, always will be cool. Documenting when someone's birthday is, when someone told me to call them, they'll always thank me for that. Checking my ego, practicing my craft, and then having patience and knowing that things are going to take some perseverance to get through these relationships. I might get lucky and get into account in 2 days. One account, like one of my best accounts when I worked at, took 5 years. I had to have patience. You know,
What made you be able to wait 5 years? I mean, 5 years for some people is too much, right? I got people panic after a week of running, say, automation, or they go one post. Oh, I didn't do well. I'm like, one post? Really? Like, I mean,
I,
how do you have that like long term mindset and still that and live that way?
well, it's not easy, I would say, and I wasn't perfect. Let me make sure I'm really clear with the audience. But I think, like for example, let's say if I was in a group, a business department, and let's say there was 6 decision makers plus a VP. Well, inside that account, maybe I'm working with the DevOps guy and the PMO, but I might have to have patience to work to get referred into the dev guy or girl manager, and then I might have to get some wins. I might have like, hey, there's 35 consultants in this whole team. We have 26 of them. Well, that's a pretty good story that the vice president might want to know about. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Vice President, I want to thank you for your time to serve you and your team. We're not sure if you know, but we're currently working with 3 of your leaders who are fantastic, and they make my job very, very easy. And you got a great team. I just want to make sure you heard that from an external partner. But I'd love to meet with you to share some best practices and how we're helping some of your team solve problems from a staffing perspective. When I did that type of stuff, she took a meeting, but I had to be at something she wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, let me take this back to LinkedIn as an example for this team, for the story, for the audience. I'm sure you see this too, but maybe not. Let me know if I'm wrong. The number of people that reach out claiming to make me gazillion dollars as a coach and do this, do that, do this, do this, do that. I'm like, I delete those because you've not asked one question. You've not showed any interest in me. I even had somebody reach out. I'm not going to name them because it'd be embarrassing for them. But they said, "Hey, Casey, I love your podcast, Winning the Relationship." I don't have a podcast called Winning the Relationship. I have a podcast called The Quarterback Dadcast. Delete. Hey, Casey, I wanted to call to reach out to see if you thought about writing a book. I did 4 years ago. And so, like,
I get those too.
just so I give 2 bad examples, but just if we're a little curious and do a little prep and do a little bit of homework, I'm not talking like 7 hours of analysis paralysis, but just show the client you did some homework. That still works, everybody.
The client, the prospect, the everything. I mean, I talk about like you can farm at scale nowadays with like automation and everything else, but I think people combine hunting with farming and they get themselves in real trouble.
Yeah.
Versus farming, bring them into the ecosystem, have your profile built out, have your content, your about section, right? You don't have to send a connection message. You let them give them the opportunity to connect with you and they'll look at your profile, and then just to your point, be intentional with those open-ended questions. I tell people the automation, like if you use it, don't have an audience of 2,500 people, have an audience of 100 that is relevant. You can ask them all the same question that's going to open up conversations. Like 30 of them might connect. That's 30 people. 30 of those people get the message. Maybe 10, 15 of them respond. And you're starting a conversation that's relevant to them. It could be, hey, how's hiring in a challenging market, right? If they have a lot of applicants, it could be, how are you guys dealing with the influx of applicants in a market, right? Like there's always two sides to hit it from. Is it the earth shattering question? Oh, you're talking business, and yeah, you're talking hiring. You could talk business, outside of hiring and talk business as well. But on an automated level, it's worked pretty well because now you
Mm-hmm.
can, with LinkedIn, you can see if they post jobs on LinkedIn. You can go to their careers page, right? There's so many things you could do if someone replies to navigate. Did you go to the same college? There's something, could you like or comment on one of their posts, right? You get people to reveal themselves, interact with you, and then the real hunting can kind of begin.
Mm-hmm.
And you can automate that piece of it without hurting your brand and your reputation and generating conversations. It's that stuff is pretty powerful. I mean, that's how I built this whole thing. That's how a lot of recruiters I've helped have been successful. It's just that, and just have the confidence to just be chill and don't try to sell on the first message.
Mm-mm.
And it's amazing what can happen. And I
Yeah.
think part of it is like people just struggle navigating like dozens of conversations, right? And I know you work with bigger teams and bigger companies, but like, how do you see that as well? Like
Yeah.
people almost like just get overwhelmed with having that many conversations. But again, that's what they want at the end of the in the beginning. They wanted more conversations, but as always managing those becomes too much and nerve wracking. They've like created a different problem for themselves.
I've
Uh,
worked,
yeah,
well, just real quick on that, Clark. I've worked with companies of 10 to companies of 100,000.
yeah,
So the genre and still the same, some of the problems around, like I mentioned, humility, vulnerability, and curiosity exist.
hmm
This other thing that exists is customers or salespeople recruiting, or sales specifically when you're doing outreach to get like recruiting business. You think you have to say the perfect thing, but to your point earlier, you don't. You have to ask the perfect thing. Selling is about I always think being a curious storyteller. So if we know the problems that we solve, if we know that we're really good at DevOps and Agile Scrum, maybe we might ask, hey, Mr. Ms. Client, tell me, one of the customers we're working with struggle with keeping people on their Scrum team engaged due to velocity issues. Describe how that's impacting you. Like that might be a completely different business question that a recruiter wouldn't ask versus, hey, do you need a product owner? So it's taking time to ask a question, but then having the confidence through practice that we say, tell me more about that.
yeah,
And that's where I think all the gold is. And that's the things I work with my clients on, is like training the habit of open-ended second and third level questions is what most people don't do. Most people ask one question and they turn that question to like catnip. They turn into a cat and they jump from the couch and they look for the mouse,
yeah,
but they don't get it. They don't have patience.
yeah. The patience is so important. And I was at ERE last week in Vegas, and it was about 80% corporate recruiters, and that was one of my biggest takeaways. It's just getting there and getting to know them, what their day to day is like. Because I don't have the corporate recruiting background, so I was just generally curious, like what they're seeing, the outreach that they get, what they're there to learn, and they were overwhelmed by AI. And some people had a team of sourcers that didn't know how to source,
Mm.
right? And so, you know, the like, hey, do you need a project manager? It's like, well, anyone can find a project manager. Finding them's not the hard part. It's everything else kind of after that's the hard part. And kind of really reframing. I've been telling my clients on coaching calls this week. I'm like, assume that these quote unquote hiring managers, right, whether it's the department or HR, like they all have issues and challenges. Your job is to be curious enough to find out what it is. Some people it could be sourcing, some people it could be job ads, some people it could be stuck in a 10-year LinkedIn contract and have no idea how to get more out of LinkedIn, or they don't know how to use LinkedIn Recruiter, or like whatever else it is. Like if you could just find their challenges, their problems, and some of them might be willing to share, some of them might not be, right? But like if you look at it that way, I guarantee you they're there, and I guarantee, back to your original point in the beginning, you're gonna see your own value. Because for me, over and over, I'm like, wait, that's the problem. Like, yeah, of course, I can solve that. Like, I know how to get
Mm-hmm.
around that, right? And it's like, but it comes from, just to your point, asking the perfect questions.
Well, and we say like that, like sometimes people might get, well, I don't know what to ask you guys. Casey and
Yeah,
Clark, sure, it's easy for you to ask. Well, practice it.
yeah. Trial and
Practice.
error. Yeah,
Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Maybe you go to a client that you have a little bit of relationship. Hey, tell me what's the best question a staffing firm's ever asked you? Great. Tell me why. Get the answers from the test.
Or what you said, what's one question they've never asked and they should be?
There we go. There we go.
Beautiful.
Hey, what's maybe you go to a candidate. Hey, what's one question that a recruiter's done to differentiate themselves with you? Great. Tell me why.
It's amazing what happens when you ask those. And if you haven't, and you're on this listening to this episode, you probably navigate a little bit. But if it's your first time coming across it, you're like, what is this podcast all about? I mean, it's an amazing way to break doors. And to your point, ask the clients and candidates you've already worked with, that you've already supported, that already think highly of you, is a great way to get market feedback on processes and frameworks to double down on. Um, I gotta ask. I feel like we skipped over like your rise and ascension in Kforce. Like, what were some of the turning points? I mean, I guess talk to us about like what you recruited for. Sounds like I'm hearing agile, scrum masters, project managers, right? But like, what was that journey like to kind of like hit your first? I mean, I think you called it President's Club. I'm not sure. We called it contest over at Aerotech, but like, what was that like? Like, what were some of the big things that kind of got you over the hump and kind of got you there, right? And got you to this side.
Well, it definitely starts with a great team. I had fantastic recruiters. I had fantastic leadership to help make me the best version of me possible. I had great back office people that would
Huge.
collect on the bills at the right time. I had great support staff that took care of our consultants. Like without them, in the beginning, that mindset of playing quarterback, these were my team. They were my linemen, my receivers, my defense, my special teams. So it's like always team first. I think that helped. But I think like, there was always steps along the way from, I mean, I have a great memory of one of my great leaders, Jeffrey Neal, who taught me the power of visualization to get to that first big career mark. We had times along the way where I was getting retaught or because I had to relearn that habit of like great business development outreach. How did I do that? I had to learn which is why I talked about this in chapter 3, the difference between hearing and listening. I remember one of my largest accounts I worked with, one vice president said, "Casey, man, you're wasting your time. We're getting rid of all of our contractors. You guys are screwed." Now, most people would listen to that, but instead of me saying, "Oh my God, we got to sell everything, go live in a van down by the river," freak out, I said, "Okay, I'm going to ask another questions and verify that wasn't happening. This guy was just having a bad day and freaking out." And so he told me this, and I was like, okay, I did. That's where I had to like hear him, not listen to him. But always I'm trying to be the best listener possible. So instead I went to other people and said, hey, so maybe his group was struggling, but maybe then I can pivot. So maybe we are also known as the DevOps or the PMO BA team, but maybe I need to learn more about design. And so we would start educating ourselves and build relationships on design. And so like when you can pivot, because in my mind, recruiting is recruiting. Yeah. It just takes some in-depth preparation and understanding. And if you are genuinely curious, you can learn anything. And if you're coachable, you can learn anything. And if you take feedback, you can learn anything. And so reminding the client and telling them like, hey, we're not like perfect at everything. And we're not, but tell me more about you and tell me more about what you're doing. So making the clients feel really, really important because I genuinely was curious and I wanted to learn. And sometimes I didn't make it always about the business part. Like I tell a story in the book about a gentleman who I worked with who went to North Dakota State and he loved North Dakota State football. And I found this out because I had the courage to ask one question. Hey, I see you're in North Dakota. Tell me, are you a big Bison fan? Oh my God, we love the Bison. Guy lit up. So then I realized, okay, well, my quarterback coach in college left Central Washington to go to Eastern Washington, and Eastern Washington had a rivalry with North Dakota State. Well, I'm going to start asking questions about that. So every time I'd call him, I didn't say, hey, do you have need for Python developers? I say, tell me, what are you most excited about for this upcoming season? Or tell me, how'd spring ball go? Or tell me, what did this do? And so because how I made him feel, that's a big moment where then that person ended up hiring close to 40 people from me. I had 35, 40 contractors on billing with him. Just not by marketing the right candidate, which is still important, but it's by how I built a relationship with him, how I met him where he's at when he was ready to engage.
That's the way harder part than finding the candidate. A lot of people can find really good candidates, but it's really hard to build relationships. and good relationships and kind of have that knack for it and develop that knack. And well,
One thing
yeah, go
I
ahead.
I'll say one thing I really want to make sure I share, because it wasn't just as much as I mean, I was very lucky and gracious to have a nice run in the industry, but there was a lot of difficult times from like having to get interviewed for an account and not selecting it due to some internal politics early in this was before Kforce, to having your client lay 55 people off in one night. From my first 3 months, I went from 16 down to 6 contractors on billing. So like I learned that like, ooh, I never want to have to close a deal to make a house payment. So I just learned I'm going to live way below my means, save, be grateful for commission when it comes in, but stay hungry, stay humble, stay organized, make those clients feel that it's they're the most important person in the world, make our consultants feel like they're the most important people in the world. And so I think the moment of adversity prepped me for this journey along the way. And so I think just by staying humble is what helped me, I think, continue to ascend each year after year.
That's God, that's so much gold there. It's lessons I've had to learn as a business owner, right? You stay below your means. You prep for the rainy day. And I think I told you offline about a couple I just talked to that thought about getting in recruiting, and I gave them the realistic breakdown and decided, you know what, we're gonna wait a second to start our own agency. And I'm like, good, right? Like, you should know the grind that this is going to be. Can it be very rewarding? Absolutely. But mentally, you're gonna go through the reps. It's gonna be tough, especially in the beginning. And I remember those, like, you lose 10, 20, 30 people at a time. It's just like, you gotta
Mm-hmm.
be kidding me.
Mm-hmm.
I was just about to hit my all-time high, and then you get those phone calls.
But
I
the
did,
key,
yeah.
the gold in that, when it happens, if someone's out there listening, it's going to happen to you if you stay in the industry for long enough. And then what I had to do is use sarcasm to keep me calm. So like when that happens, your client isn't waking up thinking, "Man, what a great night's sleep! I can't wait to lose budget when I get into work and have to call Clark to say we have to lay off 40 people. That's going to make a successful day. Ooh, can't wait, everybody." Just like when something goes bad internally, it's not like your recruiter, your account manager's planning for that stuff to happen. So imagine if we just slow down and give people the benefit of the doubt. Remember what it was like to first start. Give people some grace when things don't always go well. Not hold people accountable, but give them some grace a little bit.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite moments, I remember when my journey, when a vice president at this large account told me, "Casey, the day you won this deal, the day you lost it, both were, out of your control. You're the same guy. Thank you." And that's why you always have my trust. And so I think that those are the moments I cherish the most on that 20-year journey, not the President's Club trip. I'm sure that was fun, but like the relationships you develop. It was like the locker room moments
Yeah.
with the people. So,
Not just the Saturdays and the win or loss there.
mm-mm.
So I guess these all the sports cliches, right? I'm sure it's like bouncing back after throwing an interception and everything else, and
I never
throwing
threw
a
those. What are
touchdown.
you talking about?
Well, I don't know if they had the box score still from the
Oh,
'90s, but we can verify. We
I
can
threw
verify.
tons. I threw tons.
What the book "Win the Relationship, Not the Deal"? What what are some of the big takeaways, and who's it for? Right.
When I wrote it 4.5 years ago, I wrote it. This would be like the 4 categories. I wrote it for somebody who's right out of school, that they go work for a company and their boss is saying, "You got to go out and build relationships." And they're like, "Okay," but they're like, "Well, how do I do it?" This book's for you.
And
This
why?
book's, yeah, exactly. That's a really good point. This book's for somebody who's maybe north of 5 years, that maybe forgot some of the best practices that I wrote about that really helped me achieve high levels of success. That's for you. I wrote it for an executive at a company who is like trying to figure out, okay, what are successful salespeople doing that I can help train my team to think like. That book's for you. And then lastly, I wrote for colleges, like trying to teach EQ versus IQ in college, like with storytelling of real life corporate America versus people that think they know what life like corporate America is. No offense to anybody out there but the book I wrote it's like 20 years of street fights, and this is to watch. These are things to do. These are things not to do. This is where I struggled. Now, I initially thought, oh, it's gonna be perfect for like staffing companies and recruiting companies and consulting companies. But what I've learned, I've impacted the golf industry, insurance, medical device, real estate, wealth management, insurance, because education, athletics, I think that's it. Nonprofit orgs. But when you think about it, every business, every family is on relationship building. So I don't want to say my book's for everybody, but I actually kind of think it is, because in what family, in what company, in what team doesn't want people who are nice, who bring energy, who always set expectations, who are great listeners, who document what they learn from meetings, who always are checking their ego and they're practicing to be a better version of themselves, and they have patience for people. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but as now I'm getting experience, I'm like, yeah, I spoke at a large bank here in Seattle for a bunch of account back office finance people. Like, that book was not for them when I wrote it, but I had a positive impact when they hired me to speak, and I got them to think differently. I got them to think like salespeople.
The explosion of first automation, then AI. I think you touched on this earlier. People want that authenticity and post-COVID era and everything else, and getting back to in-person stuff and everything. I think there's a yearning for authentic connection with all the noise that's going on. And so that's why I'm not surprised that this topic is spanning across industries and departments, because it could be a lost art if we're not careful. I don't think it's, to your point, it's as cultivated as much. It wasn't really cultivated that much in 2009 when I graduated. I think it's definitely less so now. But people are seeing the importance. I think, are you seeing a little bit of a turn where people are valuing some of these traits and these abilities more now than, say, maybe 20 years ago in your career?
1,000%. And there's two things that came to mind when you told me that. One, companies or customers actually appreciate just an old school phone call. We don't always have to make everything a Zoom or Teams. Show a
I
little
love
curiosity.
phone calls. Yeah.
Ask them.
So good.
That's a way to be uncommon. Hey, would you prefer a phone call today versus, you know what? Yeah, I want to go take my dog for a walk. Thank you.
Oh, the walk and talk. Yeah, it's the best. Yeah.
But that was what we always did back in the day. But why is that? But again, if you don't slow down to even ask the question and don't assume, well, I have to do everything Zoom because my boss told me to.
Yeah.
But what if your client wants to talk some point? Meet your client where they are, right?
Right.
Just lost my train of thought. Showed my old age.
We're talking authenticity, relationship, people wanting that now more versus kind of 20 years ago, maybe more topic conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like right now, when we came out of COVID, I didn't realize this at the time, and I don't think a lot of sales leaders learned that at the time. People forgot how to communicate.
Yeah.
People forgot how to listen. People forgot how to leave their house. People forgot how to attend a networking event. And it's like, I love when I hear people say, oh, I can't go to networking events. Or when I go, it's just so awkward. Well, it's awkward for everybody.
Yeah.
But if you go there with a different mindset, like, I don't know anybody, but what a great opportunity. I'm going to meet 5 new friends today. Change your mindset and imagine what happens. And so I think one, I'd say give yourself grace if this episode's hitting you, but realize you can do something about it. Or you can stay comfortable on the sidelines.
It's a great point. Last week was my first recruiting conference specific. I've done private agency stuff and networking and for networking groups and spoken there, but the first big recruiting conference, and that was what I kept thinking about. I was busy, I was a packed schedule, but I was like, I could have met more vendors. I could have met all the vendors, and all that. Just I'm like, okay, I got to get better at that next time. I met a ton of people, ton of new people, did a lot, but there's always more. It's all right, well, next time I'm gonna just make sure I go in a circle and just say hi to everyone when there's a dull moment. It's it is. You're so right. There's those things. And I felt rusty, right? First event, big conference in a while, first recruiting conference, 2 under 2. And the first day I had to adjust to be around adults, right? And not and all that. It was a little bit of an adjustment. It took me a couple hours, but we got it back. And that was one of my takeaways. It was a great event, but it was I think I could do more next time. I'm going to challenge myself to go around the room. And to give myself grace and to do that. Yeah.
Great call out. I think that's leadership right there, Clark. And so what you just said is a great LinkedIn post that I can't wait to read. It's a great LinkedIn post because you're showing how many other people have felt what you just said out loud. I'd be willing to bet hundreds.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. And you know what's funny, Casey, is like I felt it even happening in the moment, but I was just like the 10 years ago, like I'd never cared, but like it was weird. Like I'm obviously extroverted, right? I've done, I do all these, we get the podcast and everything else, make sure I'm not sitting and unplugging my cord here. But it's like, it's weird because there's versions of me that's never been a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I do get in my own head of like, and I think even last week it was like, well, a couple of recruiting agencies were there with Boost. It's like, why wouldn't I have introduced all that? But I know they're trying to do their thing and everything else, and it happens to everyone. And to your point, and I think for me, it's like making a challenge out of it, make it fun next time. It's like screw it, like I don't need anything. I'm not trying to close them as clients right away. I'm just like literally saying hi to people and be like, hey, you guys having a good time, right? And it's so
Well,
easy to get out of that. Yeah.
let me give your audience. This is what this is part of my coaching practice I give when people like invest to hire me, but I'll give away for free as a little takeaway for your folks here. So what you just said made me think of it. So like one of the two words that I know made me and my team successful during our Kforce run was "I will." We wouldn't say things we want to do or we need to do. We would say "I will." We'd write it down. Now, so then on this journey of entrepreneurship, I created, sarcastically speaking, but I really mean this, like 5 new swear words. And so these swear words are need to, should do, want to, have to, and can't. And so I challenge people, if you're listening at home, how often do leaders, you hear your team say, yeah, I need to start making more calls, or hey, I have to get into that counter, or oh, I can't fill that job way too hard, or man, I'd fill this job, but I need more information. Then go get it. Stop telling me what you need to do, what you have to do, want to do. All those words do is create anxiety. And so through storytelling, I like to tell stories. Like imagine we were on a plane and you heard after you take off and you heard the pilot say, hey everybody, welcome to flight. Ooh, shoot, I forgot to file a flight plan. We need to do that. Hey, I'll be back to you in a little bit. Imagine the nerves and anxiety. You'd feel like, oh my God, what is going on? So now I'm being joking around here, but why if pilots have to file a flight plan and have a plan and have structured report, why can't we in recruiting and staffing and sales? Yeah. Like, why wouldn't I say, hey, I will call 40 people today. I will have 20 outreach. I will attend 2 networking events this week. And don't give yourself an option not to. Just challenge your mind. Like, I'm going to do it. I can't wait. And I think that's what separated us from others as I reflect back.
It's everything driving towards action. And to your point, I think reducing that anxiety, it is a challenge. It's a battle. I've never been more productive in my life than I have been in the last 4 years. I still deal with it.
Yeah.
I still have it. And that's, I think to your point, like just embracing that and knowing that it's going to be there, but you can change some of the wording, some of the mentality, some of the voice in your own head to start gearing yourself towards action. And it doesn't have to be result in an immediate, some groundbreaking win and all that stuff, but it's just like, you knowing internally that that's improving it, you're doing it right. There's something about fulfilling a promise to yourself, right? Of just like that's pretty transformational. So,
love it.
let me ask you about the quarterback dad cast because we're running down to the hour here. But you've interviewed 300 plus dads. Why the dad cast? Like, why did you decide to go in that direction? I'll ask that first.
So shout out to my college teammate Ty Nunez, who helped me get this thing off the ground back in 2020. And so I had a podcast at Kforce internally where I was interviewing like Kforce veterans and legends about just their life story and getting people to know. And I just loved the ability to ask questions because it helped me as a salesperson. It helped me as a leader. It helped me as a coach. Helped me because I'm having to really listen and then ask follow-up questions. So, but the idea, this is back when there wasn't a lot of work. There wasn't a lot of support for I'd say men. This was like during the 2020 when social unrest and diversity was huge, which I'm a big diversity guy, and I want to see us having a still big awareness for supporting women, supporting people of color, and but I think there was not a lot of things or resource out there for men and specifically dads leaning in on, hey, you don't have to have all the answers. And so I was like, what if I applied the same sales principles I'm passionate about and leadership principles on humility, vulnerability, and curiosity, and try to use the metaphor of football and help dads become this better quarterback or leader of their household. And so I was like, screw it, let's do it. And it's funny, even I think episodes when I first started, it was very structured. You are now on the receiving end of something not being as structured, but I think we have better conversations and better content now. And it's getting dads to think about things that they haven't thought about in a while. Why they were raised, who impacted them, adversity of their life, and really digging in on some of these stories. And what I found, though, the gold that I found that I didn't realize is this podcast was never a lead gen tool, but it has happened that on accident. So, like, for example, let's say I speak at a conference, and then people hear out a podcast, and then all of a sudden I build a relationship with the CEO, CRO, and all of a sudden I interview them, and they're like, "Wow, I like how you ask questions," and that usually leads to like coaching or something.
Yeah.
But the last thing I'll say, the thing I love the most about this podcast is whether you're the play-by-play guy for the Seattle Mariners, who I've interviewed, to the play-by-play manager of play-by-play person of the Seattle Kraken, who I've interviewed, to this week's guest, Lofa Tatupu, former Seahawks linebacker stud. It doesn't matter, because I've also interviewed stay-at-home dads. I've interviewed the accountant dad. I've interviewed the sales dad. And what we have in common is the same job description. We're dads. And our kids could give two shits about what you do. We as the dad think they do because that's our ego speaking. But what they care about is, hey, can we get ice cream? Hey, can we go see a movie this weekend? Hey, can I go spend the night at Billy's house? Hey, can you come play catch with me? Hey, can you help me with my math homework? Dad, I don't want to do the dishes. Like all these things that we're teaching dads. And so we make it less about us and more deliberately present about them. And so that's my goal in every episode, just get dads to kind of slow down and realize, wow, I got 18 years before these guys go away. So I'm going to impact and really take a present approach.
Well, it's a wonderful project, and I'm so happy that you started it, because just our conversation on there, it's interesting. I always felt like I was pretty introspective and always open to talk about things that gone on in my life, but a lot easier before kids. And doing, not that it's not easy now, but it's just you're in it, right? I'm in the Thunderdome day to day, if you will.
Tina Turner, let's go.
And yeah, but it was just you asking about that just made me. It's interesting how it made me think about things coming full circle in my life, which I had definitely done, given kind of my story, losing my parents young and all that. I had that, especially with Wyatt, my firstborn. But when you're asking about the kind of different influences and kind of like diving deeper, it's an interesting time. It makes me realize, like, man, my depth of knowledge and wisdom and everything is skyrocketed just in 2 years of being a dad, let alone when you get to 10, 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years, God willing. And it is good to have those moments to kind of just stop and reflect. And I think it's one of the wonderful uses of podcast, internet, everything. I get stuck on these YouTube, Instagram reels. It's like fatherhood and being present and all the tear jerkers. I think it's good to be tuned into that, because it snaps me back to reality after a busy day, a long day of calls or ups and downs or whatever. It's like that is what matters. And there is something really cool about this era, this year, 2025, where you really have the choice more than ever to choose to be present. We've always had it, but I think just compared to now to we look at last 40, 50 years, there's something cool happening in the culture. Maybe it's just my own lens. It's because you're doing stuff like the Quarterback Dadcast, and there is some of that stuff going on. There's an opportunity to be present and understand the fulfillment and know that it's not about the flash of circumstance, but it is those little moments that make it. And there's other dads fighting the battle as well, and fighting the good fight. So it's super cool.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I mean, that's what's fun is, like, if you think you're the only dad out there with a 2.5-year-old and 4-year-old and who's stressed out, you're full of shit. Sorry.
You're definitely not. Yeah.
So it's like, we'll build a community together. I mean, we're on Spotify, on Apple, and YouTube, and iHeart, wherever you can consume podcasts, where we have episodes. So, and I just encourage people, if you do take a moment to listen to one, share it with somebody else, because this is my nonprofit. I do not make money on the podcast. It's one of my biggest expenses. I'm actually looking for a sponsor if there's anybody interested, but shameless plug there. But it's
funny.
It's serving people, and it's when you hear a story of somebody that said, "Hey, I listened to this," and wow, I thought I was alone. And I'm not. I'm like, it just inspires me to keep going.
Yeah, I'll I love that. I got maybe a couple ideas for sponsors, these people we can talk to. So we'll talk offline about
Cool.
that. But we'll have the link to the podcast in the description, link to your URLs. Definitely make sure to connect with Casey and follow his content. Get the book, listen to the podcast. We'll have a link for that as well. We'll make sure to coordinate on that. Which I got to get myself a copy as well. So Casey, appreciate you being here. What's one last takeaway or tip that you want to leave with the listeners with?
Well, first, I'm going to say you're a fantastic host. Thanks for making it so easy for me today, Clark, and thank you again, Kelly,
Thanks.
for making today happen. The last thing I'll say is this piece of advice that helped me every single day in the staffing business, which is when I asked myself this question, but I also asked my team this question, which is, do you want to be right or do you want to get what you want? And rarely are we right? And if we're so focused on being right, that's a great way to say, hey, my ego's in the way. Just like, I'm gonna have the perfect candidate, or man, your client's an idiot, they don't want to hire anybody, or your candidate sucks. It's easy to blame people. Getting what we want is a deal, a relationship, a win internally, more organized, clarity on where we're going to go hunt, all these things. So if you find yourself having more friction in your environment, maybe ask yourself a question: do we want to be right? Do we want to get what we want? And so the more that you embrace getting what we want, which is a better cohesive environment, I'd be willing to challenge it, because of someone who's spent over 20 years in that industry, that's what separated us. One of the big reasons that separated us was us embracing that mindset.
That's a great takeaway. I love that. Coach is learning something from the coach. That's for sure. I learned a few things here today. So, Casey, again, appreciate you again, my friend. Thanks for being here, sharing your wisdom, and just being so open and awesome about it. So,
You
appreciate you, man.
bet. Thank you.
All right. Again, it's like Casey said, if you got value, share it with someone that could also benefit from this, like give 5 stars, all that good stuff. Make sure to connect with Casey. Until next time, happy hunting, y'all.